Hey, good afternoon. It's Thursday, February 9th. And thanks so much for being here today. And welcome to Everyday Talk 24/7. As you see, we've got some cows feeding in the background. It's, I don't know, I really like the cows. We're going to continue talking about discernment. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're going to see how leading your children along paths of discernment will protect them. Rules will not protect your children. And what we're talking about in terms of a rule is man-made rules, your household rules. If they're not connected to bringing honor to God, if they're not connected to the gospel, if they're not connected to giving our lives over to God and growing in Him, then they will offer no protection at all. And we've been looking at that the last several videos earlier this week. Again, discernment, which is, as my wife Ruth defined it this way, discernment is seeing the difference between good and bad or good and best so that I know what to do to please God. This is huge. It's not about for me, it's about bringing honor to God. It's not even so much about making my life better, though it will. The goal is to bring honor to God. Discernment is seeing the difference between good and bad or good and best so I know what to do to bring honor to God. And discernment, like wisdom, they're very closely connected. It's an acquired skill. We're not born with discernment, we're not born with wisdom. But by the ministry of the Spirit, through His Word, we can acquire and grow in both. So the point I'm trying to make today in connection for us is discerning wisdom, discerning a life that is about honoring God and living in ways that discern that path, that will protect your children. These rules, by themselves, they will not. Remember, we looked at Mark 7, where Jesus chastised the Pharisees for clinging on to rules, human rules, about washing your hands and cleaning utensils and all that, simply for the purpose of washing hands and cleaning utensils. And Jesus said to the Pharisees, "You are hypocrites." And he quotes Isaiah 29. "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is in vain." They are teaching merely human rules. Mere rules leave your children unprotected. They leave you unprotected. And that's the connection. We're not going to be protected, our children are not going to be protected if we're just trying to create a new set of rules. And we looked yesterday at Colossians 2:23. These rules, they may sound really great and keeping everybody in line. But notice, these rules, they may seem wise because they require strong discipline, devotion, pious self-denial, and severe bodily discipline. But they provide no help in conquering a person's evil desires or restraining a person's sinful indulgence. So instead of this pattern, instead of just giving rules, what can we do that's positive? Well, we see a window in that, the foundation for it, in Proverbs chapter 4. I'm going to read the first 6 verses and then just look at them real quickly with you. "Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding." See, we tend to stop right here at verse 1. See, listen to me, kid, and you'll be all right. That's not what's being said here. We've got to follow the rest of it in context. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. When I was a boy in my father's house, still tender and only child of my mother, he taught me and said, this is a biographical presentation of Solomon because he's hearing his father David speaking to him. And so now he's going to start quoting David. And David has seen the horrific story of people not trusting God, of his children not trusting God. So he's pleading with Solomon. "Lay hold of my words with all of your heart. Keep my commands and you will live. Get understanding, get under wisdom. Do not forget my words or swerve from them." And you see, it's not his words that's going to do it. It's what his words are saying. "Don't forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you." See, that's what we're after today, and looking at what wisdom and discernment will do for your children. The protection comes not just because you have household rules. The protection comes is because your children are committed to loving wisdom, loving discernment. We see a very similar pattern to Proverbs 4 in Ephesians chapter 6. Verse 1 is a verse of chapter 6 which is often taken out of context. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. We teach our children this by itself. This is a trap. It will lead your children into disarray because your words become the bottom line instead of God's words. Verse 1 of Ephesians 6 must be connected to verse 4 of chapter 6. Now they form the unit. So it's not just children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right, but rather, fathers, don't stir up, don't exasperate, don't provoke your children to anger, but instead bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And the word bring them up there is connected to, the root word is nourishment. You can, if you will, it's like nourish them up. It's a root of nourishment that's here for bring them up. So you're nourishing, you're bringing them up. But it's nourishing. It's caring for, it's feeding them with the truths of God, not just commanding obedience. That's important for us to grasp. Nourishing our children is the goal, and we nourish them with teaching them the skills of discernment and helping them to acquire wisdom. So therefore, keeping rules, that equals no protection and no preparation to life. Whatever your household rules are, you've got to connect them to God. It can't be about making your life better. It can't be making about running your house better. It's got to be connected to what it means to know God and honor Him. So therefore, loving wisdom, loving discernment, that's what brings protection. That's what will protect your children and prepare them for life. So instead of children looking for an item on a list, oh, okay, what is it I'm supposed to do? Rather than that, this is about preparing them so that they will seek nourishment, know what it means to know God and be encouraged by that, and embrace a lifelong pattern of walking after God. And we looked at Proverbs 4 later, the later part of Proverbs 4 earlier this week, where guard your heart. You guard your heart by watching where your feet go, watching where your eyes go, watching where your mind goes. Not to keep rules on a list, but to keep you faithful from God so that your heart is guarded and protected. That's the key here. Are we nourishing our children with discernment, with wisdom? Are we helping them acquire that skill? Or are we just leaving them with a set of rules and regulations to follow so that our house will be better? If that's all we give our children, then we make them a sitting duck for the enemy. Remember Colossians 2, these rules, they offer no protection. They will not protect you or your children. So this nourishing is the idea. I'm going to talk more about nourishment tomorrow, not just for children, but for all of us. But for today, put this back into your thinking. Don't be satisfied with rules just for the sake of rules. Help them to see that this life is about loving God, honoring Christ, trusting Him to take care of us when we can't take care of ourselves. This is what will protect your children, not an arbitrary set of rules that your children will just see as something that's going to make your life better. They've got to see that this is going to bring life to them. And we'll talk about how that's going to happen tomorrow. Again, love your thoughts and feedback. Thank you so much for being here. These lessons, these videos on discernment, they are huge. They can change the way you parent. They can change the way that you love God. They can change your impact in this world. Lists won't cut it. Keeping rules leads to self-righteousness. Loving discernment and wisdom will produce God's righteousness within you. And that's the thought for this day. Thanks so much for being here. Check us out everydaytalk247.com. Give us feedback, thoughts, questions. If you haven't subscribed, turn on post notifications. These videos will come right to you. And tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll be talking about nourishment. Thanks so much for being here. You have a great day. Bye-bye.